Much all for the invitation. First, thanks to the board of directors and to Reverend Chris and Lika, my friend, colleagues that we studied together at the Holmes Institute. So I really am appreciative of your invitation to be here and share with you some of my thoughts. I'm really impressed with your center. It's a beautiful location. It's just, you could feel the sense of this is a home. I know this home for you, and so that's really a blessing to be here. And what a band you guys have got. This is really, whoa, it's really something. And interesting enough that, I don't know if this was accidental or was, but my talk today is going to be about power within you and the belief in the power within you and abundance, because that's one of the things that happens. So let me start with my first slide. And okay, that's what I want to talk about. I have this, I'm developing, this is a concept that I haven't worked yet. I'm trying to combine those skills as a lawyer of 47 years and a law professor and now as a minister to somehow mix those interests. That's what the book is about and what the workshop will be about. But that crossroads between the law and faith, because they cause real problems to us as we try to navigate. So I'm working on that development as we go. I'm still trying to wind down. I just had my 71st birthday the other day, and still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. So let's go into the next slide. I thought I would talk and start this talk about just explain a little bit how I got into science of mind, because it's interesting. I wonder how many of you may have gotten or seen or had a similar experience. You know, I was raised as a Catholic and got baptized and did my confirmation. I went to a Catholic undergraduate school. I got my bachelor's, and where I got my doctorate was also a Catholic school. So I was really steeped in Catholicism and in the Bible. But about 30 years ago, I got divorced, and that, of course, within the Catholic faith, you're finished, right? So you can't take the sacraments. You can't have both sacraments, and then you either renounce your prior relationship or you renounce the church. This is the options that you're given within the Catholicism. So I became a free agent, and then I started looking for a place where I could feel God, because I wanted to praise God, but I wanted to have a place that was consistent with some of my values, who I still believed I had. And so, being from Orlando, which is the gold buckle of the Bible Belt, you're running around to all the evangelical churches. And I went from church to church, and it just wasn't working out for me. The feeling, the wonderful band music, that you get the spirit, but when you get to the teachings, it becomes a problem from a political point of view. And of course, you've heard some of my resume. I was very much a person involved in political, social issues on Central Florida. So, as it turns out, the Center for Spiritual Living in Orlando had fallen into very bad disrepair, and it was closing. And it looked like it was up for sale. So I owned the properties next door, and I went to go and buy the church, and I'm going to convert it into a hotel, And so when I walked inside, I met one of the persons who was a practitioner, and I saw that sculpture that's standing behind me. And I realized, oh my goodness, what is this about? I mean, they've got all the symbols, all the different faiths of the world. And I said, what's this about? I asked the practitioner. Then he started giving me some of the principles of science of mind and foundations and a law of attraction and for abundance. I said, man, that sounds just like what I've been trying to. The gospel according to Tony was what I was doing, and trying to find a way of how can I express my inner spirit within a consistency without rejecting science or rejecting common sense. And so that's how I got about to coming to this the decision that I want to find out about it. So I decided, oh, you know what? They decided not to close this jail. Then they're going to start reopening. And so there I became one of their first, if not the first person to join the congregation after its reestablishment. And I wanted to understand about this concept of abundance, because I always felt that, I had that power. If I could just make the things move, it seemed that I felt I had that. How does this happen? And of course, being in my Catholic mode and my study of, the Gospels, and you remember in Matthew, Jesus went to the mountain and said, and he was preaching, and the disciples said, Master, Rabbi, there's so many people here, we can't feed them. And so what happened in Matthew, the gospel tells us that Jesus could have everyone sit down, bring me what you have, the loaves of bread and the fish, and he divided, and everyone ate, and afterwards there was abundance still. I said, you see, I knew it. That's the way. I always knew the story, but I didn't know how that happened. It was just a miracle, Other people can do it. It's not something that I could do. That's just Jesus could do that, but nobody else could do that. So you start homes. I looked at so I started looking, and the practitioner who was showing me around said to me, Ernest Holmes said that thoughts set definite force in motion and in mind. The mind sets forth things in motion. Well, how is that so? If that was so, and you're a practitioner, why do we still have suffering? Why do we have poverty? Why is there starvation in the world? Why are all of these bad things happening if I could just think about it and make it go away? Go to the next slide. So, you go looking at history, and you see that mankind, from its earliest time, trying to understand the nature and its nature and its forces, the sun going up and down in the air, always had to create somewhere a way of touching that nature, somehow of reaching out to that thing that they could not understand. They could feel it, but they couldn't understand it, so they created avatars for that. And we have avatars still to this day in many faiths. The question is, what is behind the avatar? What is behind the concept of why you created that God in the first place? So I said to myself, what is this? And, so Ernest Holmes called it the thing. What is this thing? It is a something that we know exists. And how do I know it exists? When I see a flower, and I get that feeling when you see the smile of a child, and when you feel that, you somehow feel that love. When you see someone that you love, and you see in their eyes, and you just know there's something more. There's something more than just metaphysics, or rather physics, rather than just particles. You just know it's there. Now, in the old times, in the ancient times, people tried to understand this feeling by creating a god, an anthropomorphic god, someone they can look at, someone they can relate to, because that's what they could. But science is now taking us past that. And what's essential to science of mind is that we don't reject science. We don't go to Galileo, listen, you're going to jail if you don't follow what I tell you. The world doesn't go around, the sun does not go around us. We go around the sun, all that. We don't put people in jail. We understand the laws of nature. So as we explore nature, we can adapt to understanding that feeling that you have about what is God. And you go look into Ernest Holmes and his treatise, right, in the book, because he said something which just blew my mind. He said, matter in the last analysis is composed of particles so fine that they are simply supposed to be. In other words, it disappears entirely, and the place when it once as is again, without form and void. Matter, as we know it, is only aggregation of these particles arranged in an order to produce definite forms which are determined by something which is not material. Wow. I mean, he's basically telling you that all we are particles. And all we are is an imagination. And it is created by something that we do not know. Next slide. So what we do know, where has science taken us? Science has they have been able to now split that atom into particles, basic particles. And they did it through an accelerator, which we have one, the biggest one, of course, being in Switzerland. It goes around and they smash all these items, and they know all the basic particles of everything that's made in the universe. That is you, that is this stage, that is stars, is all made of the same particles. The difference is the formula in which they are arranged. So depending on the formula in which your particles are arranged, you are you, or you're a piece of rock, right? So what is fascinating and what is so important about science of mind is that we adapt science and we take it into the metaphysical. And so we did not invent biology. We did not invent trigonometry. We did not invent chemistry. Those are all laws of nature created so perfectly that the scientists themselves call it cosmological constant. But for these cosmological constants, we would not be here. We would be floating around. There would be no you. There would be no nothing, okay? But for these perfect cosmological constants. So, now we know that these particles are taken apart, and we are but nothing but particles, light. We are literally luminous beings. I want you to remember that term, luminous being, because you're going to come back to it in a minute. Now, the question then is, if you are these particles, and you have a specific arrangement for who you are, how does that happen? Well, scientists can explain that we are particles, but they don't know why we're particles or how we're become what you are. That is another question which goes into other topics called consciousness, which I'm sure you've heard much about. Does consciousness create matter, or does matter create consciousness? This is a philosophical and scientific question. Because if you are just a question of collection of particles, how did you come about? On the other side, if you are a conscious being, and then from that you would get projected by that creator into who you are, now you have an understanding that it is consciousness that makes matter, not matter that makes consciousness. Wow, that's a head blower, because what it's doing is we're taking the science and bringing the metaphysical of what we knew, what we feel, what we sense, that there's something more. I can't prove it, I don't know it. I'm not a physicist, I'm a lawyer, but I understand enough of this stuff that I decided that, wow, this all makes sense to me. It is pulling it all together. Now, I want to give you an example of how this actually works, consciousness and matter, how it happens. I'm going to go to the next slide. Holmes, I'll read it here. Right? We have a conscious access to a creative power which is ready, willing, and able to respond to us constructively. Our conscience can specify use of it, is limited to our awareness or understanding of it. A new design for living. That's what that is. Next slide. Okay. So now Ernest Holmes, back in 1926, well before all these announcements of the accelerator and the determination of some of the science that I've described, already understood this from a metaphysical point of view. But so this is so. Then the question goes, how does this happen? I mean, And so I have quotes from two particular scientists which I'd like to read to you. And then one is Dr. Joseph Seibel. I would really recommend in his book called The Physics of God. He said, matter is an illusion. Matter is a light show made of vibrating energy. Reality is hidden from our own four senses. Dr. Deepak Chopra says, and Dr. Donald Hoffman in their books, state that it is consciousness that creates our reality. This is true in many religious traditions, particularly in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. We are possessed with the ability to be connected through our consciousness to the universal consciousness, which is the one. Now, this all stuff, we are made of the same stuff as all the universe. It's just a fascinating concept to understand that that's how you are. That's what you are. So the question is, if this is so, okay, Tony, you're putting this all in a logical order as if I was presenting a case to you, right? Here's the logic. So, okay, Tony, you connected the dots here. How does it, now that we know this, all I have to do I have to do like I Dream of Jeannie, and then everything will be there? I will have my car, I will have my yacht, I'll have everything that I need. All I have to do is twinkle my nose. Do I have to, like the Star Trek? Those of you truckers, you know that you have the replicator, right? And so in that future world, they have the ability to change the atoms and create whatever you tell it to. I want a cup of tea, Earl Grey, boom, right? And there it is, the replica. So is that how it works? Is that how it works? Well, if that was so, Jesus would not have been making money, and Ernest Holmes would not have said what he said. So this is all future stuff that we're done. Maybe we'll do it in the future, knowing the science that God himself has given to us. But, the quote again, going back to Jesus, when he said in Matthew, "Truly, I tell you, if you have the faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move." Now, I bring these all quotes, because it is a question of following the anthropomorphic gods, following it to today. They knew what they could not explain in law or in physics, but they knew it from inside, and so they created a way of expressing their feelings, whether it's Matthew and Jesus or the Jains or the Sikhs. All the religions have the same concept of there's something more. Now we're getting closer to trying to define it. That being said, however, it doesn't tell us enough, because those are concepts. The question you have to have is, how do I make it work for me? How do I make it work for me? And the best way of talking about that is in my own stories. Back in New York, I started my law practice in New York, and once I graduated, I got a very prosperous law firm. This is what ended with my divorce. And so I wanted a yacht, because I lived in New York, and in the city, go around there, it's beautiful. And I said I wanted it, and guess what happened? We had a client in my firm who bought us a yacht for the firm, and then we had it. I got what I wanted. Miracle. Unfortunately, I almost died because of that yacht, because I crashed that boat and almost killed myself and my staff that was with us at the time. So just having the boat wasn't something. Again, that time when I was 30, when I got the divorce, I said, look, God, I prayed, I want the perfect woman. I want an educated woman. I want her to be beautiful. I want her to be self-supporting, having money, and of course, I want her to be Puerto Rican. So I tell you, 2 days later, I get a phone call from someone who has to be a professor at a local university. She fit the bill exactly like I asked God. I said, man, this thing really works, And so I met with her, and I started dating her, and I said, I'm going to marry this woman. Of course, I can't tell her, because she'll just scare her away. But I was, in my mind, I was going to marry her. But as things happened, as I started working and seeing her, dating her, it turns out that she was mentally ill. And if I had married, I would be mentally ill. So what was missing? What was missing in this materialization when I twinkled my nose and I said, God, this is what I want? What happened is, I forgot that it's not the material things that I need. It was the spiritual part that I didn't ask for. I can give you the ingredients to make a cake, but it will not be the ingredients that make the souffle rise. You have to have that other part that makes the power that you have work. So the question then is, how is that? How do you get that spirit? Is your abundance arrangement of molecules, or is it much more than just the arrangement of molecules? That comes from you. The Greek philosopher Epictetus said, seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things that are beyond the power of our will. Thus, the trick to happiness, to abundance, is not what you have or don't have. It comes from within. Knowing that what you have, that you are grateful for, and that you and everything you need is already there. And the external does not give you that happiness. It does not give you that abundance. You can have all the yachts in the world, you can kill yourself. So seek in your prayers and in your mind that balance and that acceptance. God himself, the universe, created the divine formula for your very existence. Let that sink in deep. Understand this and believe this. God himself, created the divine formula for your very existence. Who are you? That's who you are. And just like when you finish a painting or sculpture, those who are skilled in that way, or you've reached an accomplishment, you get that sense of satisfaction when you finish the project, when you finish the song. God has that when he sees you express yourself, because we are a manifestation of his consciousness. And if you're happy, then he will be happy, or she will be happy. It will be happy. The thing will be happy. Buddhists call it reaching this level Buddha Vista, right? The Buddhist. So let me leave you with some words from the great philosopher. Next slide, Ernest Holmes. When you say all things are possible, you mean that the power which created the planets is now operating in your affairs and through everything you do. Our difficulty lies not so much in contradicting this truth as in cultivating an inner awareness, a deep spiritual realization that what we are with all the presence and all the power that there is. That's the trick. For you to realize it, to really get it in you and not just say it, repeat it, but believe it. Let me play next week. Let's play that clip for me.
No. We'll never get it out now.
So certain are you? Always with you what cannot be done. Do you nothing that I say?
Master, moving stones around is one thing. This is totally different.
No different. Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
is too big.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? And where you should not. For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it. Makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship.
You want the impossible. I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
So you think you know.
So, that is why we fail. Don't walk out of here thinking that if I twinkle my nose, I will get everything I want, because nothing is material. It is all a light show. It comes from inside, from that, your determination of what is fair, makes you happy inside, that makes you complete. Is being at peace of mind with what you have and who you are. You know, Gandhi was a lawyer, one of my idols, but he gave up everything to put into loincloths. And he could have been very rich, but he took loincloths to free a nation. Buddha was a prince, and he gave up everything into aestheticism and to become who he was, the Buddha. Science of mind tells us in doing our treatments, we always express gratitude. We express our gratitude as we humble ourselves and we accept that we are, and we detach ourselves from things that may cause us suffering. We accept what we are and what we have already, in knowing that what we need will come to us when we need it. Thank you for this moment, and thank you, God, and so it is.